Hey guys, it's Brandon. So I started putting out videos a year and a half ago, and I started off with some pretty terrible videos, terrible quality, terrible audio. And as you move along, you understand kind of what makes a decent video. So through this time, I've put out, I don't know how many videos at this point, but realize that 99.9% of you guys who have watched any of my videos are not subscribed. So please subscribe. It's not gonna hurt anything for you guys, right? So just subscribe, that helps my channel. And then if you wanna watch more, it's in your subscription area on YouTube. So I've gotten a lot of comments and emails and DMs and whatnot, asking a little bit more about what the heck I do, what this is about, that kind of stuff, and a little bit further questions. So I'm going to kind of go through some questions today and talk about different things about me, different things about the channel, and we'll go from there. So I live in Austin, Texas, where it's hot for 9 months out of the year. So it makes it kind of difficult to make videos in the middle of the summer when you're working on motorcycles in your garage. So it's winter time now, so I've got quite a few videos that I've got planned and have been working on for a while for you guys, so that's exciting. I grew up in Houston. Go Astros, go Texans. So I was there for about 30 years and then moved to Austin. A little background: I moved to Austin to be a full-time musician, which I was in the music industry for about 6 years. Stepped away from that and got into the motorcycle industry, which really accelerated my passion for motorcycles and working on them and building motorcycles. I worked for a pretty well-known company here in Austin that puts on a pretty big show once a year around F1. And that was a fantastic experience. Made some wonderful friends from that, but decided it was time to move on from that because at that point it just wasn't right for me anymore. So now I do something a little bit different that allows me a little more free time to now hopefully make some more videos. So first question I got: what was the first bike I started riding on? So I started riding dirt bikes when I was about 10. My dad, I guess my dad's dad, my grandpa, had two 1975 XR75s in his garage, and we moved stuff out of the way, pulled those out, and me and my dad restored them, and that's what I originally learned to ride on, is a 1975 XR75. So which was really cool because I got to kind of wrench on it and learn that aspect of it. What's the carburetor, what a choke does, all that kind of stuff, and I learned how to use the clutch and shift and all that stuff. So I think that really kind of sparked the interest in motorcycles for me. So next question: what is my favorite bike I've ever owned? Favorite bike I've ever owned is my 2020 Triumph Speed Twin. By far, there for a long time I went through a lot of bikes just trying to find the right one, and when the Speed Twin came out, I realized that was the look I wanted, that was the performance I wanted, and finally in late 2019 I picked up my 2020 Triumph Speed Twin. And has been absolutely wonderful bike. Every time I get on, I just get real excited. I love how it feels. I love the torque. I love it gets up pretty quick too. So it's all around what I've been looking for in a motorcycle. I'm not a sports bike kind of guy. That's not really my thing. Sport bikes, I enjoy cruisers, but the modern class, or I guess the retro classics or whatever they're called, is what I'm a big fan of. So Triumph fits that bill for that. How many bikes have you owned? I've owned 10 bikes total. So after my XR75 days, I kind of got into music at that time in my early teens and whatnot, kind of moved away from motorcycles. When I moved to Austin, I realized that I wanted to get back into it. I had a garage again, and so my first bike was a 1976 CB550. It was great condition. I want to say I turned it into a cafe racer, but I modified the handlebars and some of the other things to allow it to be more of the cafe style bike. And that's kind of when I realized I wasn't a big fan of the sport bikes. Even just sitting, down like that, it was kind of hurting my wrist, hurt my back. It was fine for short drives, short rides, but it wasn't a long distance kind of machine, which I think I was originally looking for. Then while I had the CB550, I decided to get a 1975 Honda Goldwing. When I got that, it was mostly already cafe'd out, oddly enough. I did do a few other things, a few other upgrades to it. And that was a really neat bike. It sounded really good. Had straight pipes on it. It was such a neat bike. That's one of the bikes that I kind of regret selling, because it was such a interesting, unique styled Goldwing at that. And then after that, when I sold both of my Hondas, I ended up getting the Triumph Speed Twin. I got a Chinese scooter for free. There's a video on that that I kind of stripped down and just kind of rode in the dirt. There's no title for it, there's no lights. I didn't want to really spend any money on it, since it was just, it's a cheap Chinese scooter. So and then I sold that to a guy. And then I was lucky enough to get a Yamaha PW80, a little two-stroke 80 from my father-in-law, and that's a bike that he gave it to me, so I'm never gonna get rid of. So changed the plastics, I upgraded, I replaced the top end. There was a lot of fabrication issues where I guess previous welds were broken, so the seat fell off pretty much, like the subframe broke off. So everything's re-welded back up, and that thing rips now. And I put a big boy shock on it, because I don't know if you're familiar with PW80s. They're real low to the ground, more for kids. I put a big boy shock on it to support my weight, and it's been a really neat bike. Next one, I got a XL500, which I wanted to turn into more of a scrambler. So I got into that project, realized how much new wheels on that stuff was going to be, and that was not quite the project I really wanted to get into. That bike in particular came with a 23-inch front wheel, which is only one company that makes a single tire for that bike, and it was not a good looking tire. So I started looking at other rims and tires, and started getting the thousands of dollars, and that was more than the budget that I wanted to put into that project. So I cut the subframe, placed the seat, got a new tank, rewired it up, and got it running, and sold it from there. Next bike, I had an Ice Bear. I guess it was like a CT70 clone with the 125. So the frame was actually bigger than the CT70s. I put bigger tires on it. I powder coated the rims. I got new exhaust for it. I got new performance carburetor and intake for it. And that was a really neat bike. But again, just as I do, I just kind of go through different phases, and I decided, I had this bike for about a year and a half, and it's time to move on. So then after I sold that one, I got a 1986 Honda Elite 250 that I'm currently working on. There's a few videos that I guess kind of the project that I'm working on there. For whatever reason, I love 80s bikes. I love they're fun. They're kind of nostalgic. They look different than anything that's out now. So I think it's a really neat scooter. It's got some power behind it, being a 250. I've still got a lot to do with that. I finished working on the motor, cleaning out the carburetors, rebuilding those. And so now just kind of putting it back together, new air filter, new tires, all that kind of stuff, which there will be more videos on here in the future. And then I've also got my 1986 XR200R. That was, I guess, after I graduated from the XR75s, my dad got me an XR200, and that's what I really learned to rip on back in the day. So that was such a nostalgic bike for me, because that was what really allowed me to ride and do jumps and kind of rip around on my own and be independent on a motorcycle in the woods. And so I had the opportunity, after my dad sold it 20 years ago, I bought it back from the person that he sold it to, and brought it back to Austin, and that's a project I've been working on as well. And lastly is my 1997 Honda Valkyrie, which I've done some videos on. Oddly enough, been my most popular videos of why I bought a dad bike. And that's kind of what showed me that you guys are not subscribed. You're watching my videos, but come on. So with that being said, I would like to know what your first bike was and what you learned to ride on. Put that in the comments. I always think it's fun to see what people learn to ride on and kind of what enticed them to get into this hobby, I guess. Some people call it sport. I don't know. But yeah, put in the comments what your first bike was. So now the next question is, what is my next bike? That is a great question. I would like to get something that I can do long distance on. And so I am going to have a video on this when I do get this next bike. But it's also kind of chopped up. All right, I'll tell you. So I want kind of a lugger. So I've been really interested in the Yamaha Super Tenere. And then on the other side of it, I've always wanted, ever since the Honda Monkeys were reintroduced, Monkey 125s, I've been really interested in those. So I know it's a pretty wide spectrum of bikes, but I think one of those may be the next one I go for. So my question for you guys, what is a bike that you'd like to get that you've been kind of thinking about, talking about? I know it's a lot of money to get a new bike. You've already got a car or whatever else. It's an expensive hobby to get into, but I'd love to see what you guys are interested in getting next. Maybe tell me what your current bike is and if you're looking to get a second bike or a new bike. All right, next question. If somebody wanted to get into riding but never has before, where do you recommend starting? I wouldn't recommend starting where I did, with a older carbureted bike that starts 50% of the time. I would find something with a fuel injected bike. Pretty simple. Yeah, Royal Enfield makes some great bikes right now. Some slightly smaller displacements. You've got 300s or 350s and 650s, and those are great price points for those bikes. You can also, I mean, I'm always on Facebook Marketplace, so you kind of figure out maybe a mid-range, V-Strom 650 or Versus 650 or something like that, CB500X, something like that. I'd start around there and kind of realize that, hey, is this what I want to get into before I spend all this money on a new bike or anything like that. So I did the process incorrectly and started riding before I got my MSF class. And I do regret that because I did learn a lot in the MSF class. So I would recommend taking that. You're going to start learning on Groms and little 250s, and kind of get a hang of it a lot better than you would just getting a bike and starting to ride. So, which is a little unsafe nowadays if you're unsure of kind of what you're doing, or even start on a scooter, kind of toot around your neighborhood. Go down to your local grocery store, corner store, whatever it is, and just kind of get those miles under your wheels. Another question I got was, how do you meet people in the motorcycle industry? Meetups, shows, what? So I was fortunate being in the motorcycle industry for about 2 years that I was able to meet a lot of people at that point and made some really good friendships and met some other people along the way through those people. They're here in Austin, I guess all over the world. There's a thing called Moto Social that I've gone to a couple times and made some new friends from there. It's just kind of, where do I find a riding buddy? And that's kind of, I'm not the most social person. I like to ride alone most of the time. So to find moto buddies, it's a little tough for me because I do like to ride alone. But yeah, the Moto Socials, that's a good place to meet other like-minded folks. Next question, what is your favorite time of year to ride? I think that falls with anybody. That fall and spring, anything under 90 degrees, ideal. I think my cap in the wintertime is probably about 40 degrees. It gets a little chilly and I don't really have the right gear to ride anything below that. I have ridden in 115 degree weather before here in Texas, and it's not ideal, especially I'm a all gear all the time kind of guy, and it got really hot, and so that was more for the short rides if I was going to ride in that temperature. My dream place to ride, next question. I would love to ride in Scotland, and I'd love to, well, I guess even in the United States, I'd love to do a cross-country trip. and spend, you know, I've always dreamt to do a trip from Austin, Texas to Aspen, Colorado and back. If you look at the roads, I think that would be a pretty awesome experience, pretty neat ride out there. And I think hopefully in the future that may be a video I do of my trip out to Aspen. I'm not much of a camper, so I don't know if I'd moto camp, but I think it would be a pretty cool experience to make that trip out there, and ultimately see how fast I could do it. You know, is that a day trip? Is that a 2-day trip? 3-day trip? I don't know. I don't want to iron butt it, but you know, what does that look like? So I think that's kind of one of my dream rides to do, hopefully the next year or so. And that's all the questions. So guys, thanks for tuning into my channel. Please make sure you subscribe. It's not going to hurt you at all, right? It's going to help us. It's going to help benefit the channel. It's going to allow me to make better videos, more consistent videos, if you guys are subscribing. So follow me on all the social medias. I guess the Instagram here. And check out some of my other videos. And if you subscribe, you're going to see what's next. And hopefully, as you notice as you go through the videos, the production of these is getting a little better, and it's not just kind of half-assed videos where I first started. Oh, another thing, how I got into this. I've never been good in front of a camera, and I still don't think I am at all, but this is something I've always wanted to do, and I enjoy motorcycles tremendously, so I thought that was a good kind of motivator for myself to start recording, you know, the things I've got, because I had a lot of bikes, a lot of projects, so that's kind of where I started. So please make sure you like and subscribe my videos. Check out this one and this one, or this one. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and subscribe, get these notifications, help me grow this channel. This is something I really want to do and do more of. So I'll see you later.